friends. I guess it's not Good Friday, but it is a Good Friday. So we're really excited that all of you, it is Friday, right? Have decided to come spend a few minutes here, either on the recording or live, where you get to learn something about you. Because here's the reality of life, and that is that we don't come with an owner's manual. We don't come with a full understanding of who we are. We get to learn that along the way. And so, my intention for you here, and for me and all of us here today, this Friday, January 30th, is that you know something more about yourself in 90 minutes than you know right now. So, you may want to take some notes. You may want to have a place that you can write some things down. And my intention is that you will hear things or look at things a little differently. Maybe it's the same things you've looked at before, but you're going to look at them a little bit differently. Because when we can upgrade how we look at things, it changes the way we interact with our world. And even science has proven this, which is fascinating because science doesn't invent anything, but one of the things that it does like to do is try to prove things. And one of the things that they've done in science is that they have found that they've done lots of different studies. You can research them on the internet where they've studied that matter behaves differently when it's observed than when it's not observed. It's kind of mind blowing because what they've done is they've photographed atoms and they've looked at how atoms, just like the tiny building blocks of life, that they will behave differently if somebody is watching them. So, what does that mean for us here today? That means that for us, if we can observe our life will behave differently. We'll be able to have a different experience on this planet. Because, one time not too long ago, I was driving down the freeway, and when I'm driving down the road, I don't turn on the radio. I often, unless I'm on a long trip, I don't turn on an audiobook. I don't listen to anything. I like to just think because driving is one of those places where it's just the rhythmic feeling of the car. It just gives you a chance to just really amplify some of your thinking processes. And so I'm driving down the road and I'm like, I'm actually kind of ruminating on some of the negative things that are going on in my life. Because any of you ever have negative things going on in your life? Usually it involves people close to us or our work or our something that we're involved in. We'll have negative things that are going on in our life. And I'm ruminating about these and they're just looping in my head and they're going over and over and over again. And I'm so frustrated because of the things that are happening in my kids' lives. And so, um, hey, Adam, just so quick tangent here, you guys. Adam, I'm getting messages on my watch here from people that are saying they can't get into the webinar. So could you look at that and see if you're seeing that? Thank you. So I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking about these things that are going wrong for my kids and for my family. And I'm just like, what is the point of all of this? What is the point? And the way my brain works is often when I'm trying to think through something like this, that what will happen is an image will pop into my head. And here is the image that popped into my head at that moment. And this is a picture of me. My kids took me down to a one of those surfing places where you can practice surfing. And so I get to hold this rope and I get to learn how to stand up on a surfboard. Well, in this moment that I'm driving down the road this day, this image pops into my head. And then I remembered, so this image popped into my head and then this one. So this is a picture I took at the beach one time. It was not me. It was somebody else who was practicing surfing. And the image, as I'm now thinking about this image as I'm driving down the road, I'm realizing that Surfers don't get to pick the wave that they are surfing on. They can go in search of the perfect wave, but people don't get to pick the perfect wave. Surfers don't. Instead, what they do is they go out and practice every wave that comes so that they're ready for those perfect waves. They're ready for those waves that they're searching out for. But we don't get to sit on the beach and watch the waves and wait for the best one. Because when the best one comes, if I haven't practiced on the lesser waves, I won't be ready for the good one. And and I thought, that's really true, but how does that apply to all the crazy that's going on in my life? And I realized that what we have to look at is that whatever the wave is, if it's a small wave, it's a big wave, I am here practicing surfing life. That's what I'm doing. I'm practicing surfing life. So every time I can consider a different perspective, that's me on a new wave. Every time I can, every time I can open my eyes, I can wake up and be alive another day. That's me surfing life. Every time I can learn a new perspective about me, that's me surfing life. So we're here today, you guys. We're all surfing our Friday. We don't get to pick the wave per se because there's always the unknowns. But we can structure some of the parts. And so, like, we all chose, well, all the decisions that we've made in our life have brought us here together on January 30th, 2026. Here we are, our surfing waves intersect today. And that just kind of excites my brain and also blows my mind at the same time, because isn't that amazing that we can be having all of these experiences in life, and some of them we love and some of them we don't. But the reality is, we get to surf whatever wave is in front of us. And if I don't practice on this wave, I won't be ready for the next one. I love that. And Jeanette says, I love surfing with you all. So welcome, you guys, this morning. I'm so glad you chose to be here. Hello to Anjanette and Vicky and Ronalie and Christy. And let's see all the names that are going by here. And Landon and Lisa and Myron and Mindy. Welcome, you guys. I'm so glad you're here. Tim and Tanya, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Hello, Paul. Hello, Shauna. So, as we're here today, our topic that we're going to learn and we're going to consider and we're going to surf is the concept of old you versus new you. Because in our life, there is a war that we are fighting every single day. And this war is between the old version of you, the version that you have practiced, that you've repeatedly worked on over and over and over again in your life. And old you wants to stay alive. Old you wants to live. We just like we're on the planet of opposition. I love to remember that everything on this planet has opposition. There is opposites and there is opposition. There's both in everything. And so my old me is at war with the new me. So the new me needs to live. If I want to grow and be better, the new me needs to live. This is inside of me. This is the war inside. So inside of me, I have this new me, this better me, this upgraded me, this growing me, the new you inside of you. What would be your one adjective? If you could pick an adjective for the new you, put it in the chat for me. What would be the new you? What would be that? So some of my adjectives might be growing or better or happier, or I like that one, intentional, or what is the new you? What is that new you that if you could be who you wanted to be, who would that be? Brave, trusting, awake, progressing, kinder, consistent, free, action taker, transforming, motivated. These are all fantastic words. They're fantastic words. And that's the new you. It needs to live in order for you to become that, for you to practice that, for you to get in the habit of. Okay, that the new you needs to live. But the war is against the old you. Now the old you is bigger, it's more practiced, it's got more mass to it. And this is also wired inside of you, in your brain, in your nervous system, in your emotions. This one is also wired inside of you. It's wired that who we were yesterday, up till yesterday, was somebody who stayed alive by keeping things the same that I've always done them. So our old you, our old us, a lot of the programming of our old, the strengthening and the muscles of our old self came from the rules that we adopted as we were growing up to keep us safe. So the problem with the old you, let's see, the problem with the old you, let me get some words here, is the old you confuses safety with self. So the old you confuses safety with self. In other words, as long as I stay safe, and our old self defines that as familiar, as long as I can stay safe, I am me. I am me. But the new self, or the new me, whoops, wrong button. The new me needs to be, the new me is unpracticed. The new me is unpracticed. Oh my goodness, can I spell? There we go. Is unpracticed and therefore unfamiliar. And so since it's unfamiliar, the old self says that is bad. We need to get rid of whatever that new self is saying, whatever that new self wants. It's bad because that is unpracticed, it's unfamiliar, it is unknown, it isn't safe. So it actually, this war that's going on between the old self and the new self, it actually feels like death. So that's why I'm using this analogy of the war inside, because it's actually death to one side or the other. It actually feels like that. My old self feels like if it lets go of anything that it has used to keep me safe in the past, that it will be a feeling of death. And I think I made a slide on this somewhere. Let's see. I have a few slides for you today. Okay, maybe I didn't. So I'll read it to you out of my notes. But it feels like death in that it feels like let me get it for you here. It feels like separation. It feels unsafe. It feels like loss of predictability and loss of identity. And as long as we're feeling like those, as long as we're feeling like that's what's going to happen to us, that feels dangerous. So our old self and our new self are at odds with each other. But which one do you want to have win? When you realize that it's a war. So like I'm in Arizona right now, and there's lots of sports things and NASCAR and different events that come to Arizona. And so you see people everywhere wearing the jerseys of whatever their chosen team is. So if you had to pick a team that you were going to fight for, would you want to fight for the old self or the new self? Tell me in the chat, which one are you rooting for? Are you rooting for the old self or the new self? Since the, yeah, team new, right? Since the, since only one can win, which one are you rooting for? New self all the way. I love it. So in order, I'm rooting for the new guy. In order to, in order to be able to help the new guy win. So like when we go to a sports event, we cheer for the team that we're rooting for, right? We need to we also need to understand what the war is. What are the rules of the war? And so to do that, I wanted to unpack for you what the weapons are that the old you uses and what the new you uses. Because if you can understand how they're fighting, you might be able to help cheer for the new you. You might help empower the new you. Because the reality is that the shield is smaller, the weapons are smaller for the new you. The weapons are more practiced and bigger and more deflective in the old you. So let's look at what the weapons are. So the old self does not fight fair. Okay? Maybe you want to take a screenshot of this. That'd be great. The old self does not fight fair. It fights to stay familiar. So I want you to look through this list and see if any of these feel familiar to you. So the old self uses all or nothing thinking. It uses intentional pressure. You have to do it this way. You should do it this way. Did any of you have internal commentary like that? Oh, I have to do this. I'd better do this. I should do this. Okay. If any of those are weapons of the old self. Um, no options, false binaries. So this is science language, but that just means believing that it's this way or this way, that there's no gray area. This happens a lot to good churchy people. So I've been mentoring people now for 15 years. And before that, many of you know, I was an engineer. I worked in flight simulation and explosives. I also have a degree in neuroscience. I've worked a lot in psychology and behavioral fields and also body language. And so all of these things that I'm teaching you here come from my experience working with myself and working with other people. Because so this false binaries, what I notice a lot in especially good churchy people is that we get this idea that there is a right and a wrong in everything. The problem is most of life is not a clean-cut right or wrong. And so we had this idea where we say, I need to choose the right, which if in life it was really a right and a wrong, every one of our choices was a right and a wrong, that would be easy. That would be cut and dried. That would be like, oh, no brainer. I choose the right. I'll choose the right one. But the problem is most choices are not between a cut and dried right and wrong. And so we begin to live in this state. It's actually your sympathetic nervous system gets locked in place when we believe that there's a right and a wrong. Because now we go into supervigilance. We're trying to decipher where is the right one in the midst of all the wrong ones. Because if there's a right and a wrong, there can only be a single right, is what our nervous system believes. So everything else has to be wrong. So people will do this when they're making a decision like where to live. I feel like I need to move. Have you ever heard somebody say that? And it's like, where's the right place to live? So now what their brain does is it doesn't go through and say, oh, let's look at all the rightness of all the places I could go, and let's choose one out of all the right places. Instead, our brain goes, ooh, I have to figure out what's wrong with all of the places so that I don't get trapped in the wrong. Does this feel familiar? Have you ever experienced that? maybe it's not a choice, something so big as where should I live? Maybe it's simple. Maybe you get stuck when you go to the grocery store and you're like, oh my gosh, which kind of bread should I buy? Because there's only like 5 gazillion kinds of bread nowadays, and they're all made out of different stuff. And it's like, oh no, well, what does this health plan say? And what does that health plan say? And what does my body like? And what does somebody else's body like? And we look through it and we're trying to vilify all the choices because it feels safer to have things be wrong than to have things be right. So our old self uses the weapon of familiar so well, and it says, "Oh my gosh, you can't have that because you haven't found out what could be wrong with it." Do you hear that? You can't choose that because we haven't found out what could be wrong with it. So as long as we're on hypervigilance, trying to figure out the wrongness in everything, it locks us in a state that our old self can keep us chained down. Our old self can keep us pinned to the ground that we can keep the new self pinned to the ground, right? Because that's what you already said. You all told me that who you choose to be is your new self. And so my old self, it's like in my head, my old self has its foot resting on me and I can't get off the ground because I am so fearful of what could be wrong with the choice that I made. The problem is, most of life is lived in the gray area between the right and the wrong. There isn't an exact thing. Sometimes there is. Sometimes we'll get answers from our higher power that says it's got to be this way. But the majority of the time, I would say greater than 99.9% of the time, your choices are meant to be choices, not right and wrongs, not absolutes. So, so one of the old self, so I'm going to give extra weapons here. One of the weapons of the old self you can write down is absoluteness, because very little in this life is absolute. Very little. Most of it is on a spectrum. So like if I go to the store and I got to choose this loaf of bread, it's going to be an experience. And if I can learn that an experience is good, whether it was the perfect one or not, then I'm going to empower my new self. I empower my new self when I can let myself have room to make choices without vilifying them, without beating myself up over them. And maybe I'm going to push your buttons today, but I'm okay with that because I know who I used to be and I had to have all my buttons pushed to be able to grow and empower my new self to be able to be stronger, to be able to be the one that wins more of the days. My old self still wins some days, even though I've been teaching this for 15 years. But the new self wins way more often than it used to. So that's what the false binaries means, is that especially that good and bad. When I need everything to be in the bad bucket so I can justify not choosing it, that's powerful. When I can put everything in I mean that is powerful for the old self. But the comprehension of it, the understanding is going to help me empower the new self. So using language like I'm confused. Have any of you ever said that? I picked that one because that one's my husband's favorite saying when something, especially technology, is like, I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Well, that keeps us tied down to our old self. Okay. Toxic empathy. So toxic empathy is when we want to save other people so that we feel better. This is a big one. If you watched my webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago, I talked about this, that this was a big learning thing for me recently, was understanding that one of the reasons I want to help get my kids past the struggles that they're in is so that I can feel better. And I didn't realize what a huge weapon that was of my old self. It's okay. It's totally okay for me to help my kids if there's a good place for me to help them. But if I'm doing it for the reason of making myself feel better, that's what toxic empathy is. Um, and we use that one seems, does that ring a chord with anybody? It seems to, there's a few people that are commenting about that. Because the thing about that is that there's quite a few versions of toxic empathy. So you hear me talk about being a lighthouse, not a lifeboat. We're not here to save other people, right? What we're here to do is we're all having experiences. Like I mentioned, each of you are on your own journey having an experience. And we all had a shared point today on our journeys where we're here at this webinar, but we're still all on our own journeys. Well, your own kids are on their own journeys. Your siblings are on their own journeys. Your parents are on their own journeys. But growing up, when we're kids, we have this rule book that we create for ourselves. And the rule book has rules in it on how I cope with and keep myself safe in my life. And so it can be toxic rules, like toxic empathy. It can be like, I have to play small so that other people don't feel, um, so it helps other people feel better. I have to play small, or I have to take care of other people's emotions, or I have to actually have a handout I'm making about these very words that I'm making for the Break Free intensive class that we're having in Salt Lake City next week. I've got a bunch of cool handouts that are in the creation process right now because so like one of them is called shame language, the language that we keep using against ourselves to keep us tied to those rules that we adopted when we were a child. Because when we're a child, what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep ourselves safe. And so I might have rules that say things like, um, if I slow down, things will fall apart. I don't belong unless everybody around me likes me. I'm responsible for other people's emotions. Does anybody have any of these kinds of rules in their rule book? Um, Feeling emotions too big can't means that I'm bad or it will cause problems. If I make a mistake, I'm bad. It's safer to stay quiet. Um, if I'm not in control, something bad will happen. Having needs or dreams is bad. I have to earn love. If I disappoint someone, they will abandon me. My emotions are too much. Other people's needs are more important than mine. Anyway, you get the idea. Our old self will use those toxic beliefs to keep us chained to our old self. Because that rule book kept me safe when I was a child, but it was created with missing information. And when I don't update that rule book when I'm an adult, I can still be tying myself to those old rules. But worse yet, I will be frustrated when people in my life don't follow those same rules, especially our family, like our spouse or our kids um, or even our coworkers. We can get frustrated when they don't follow the rules that we think that are in our rule book, we think are universal to everybody. This is the one of the crazy weapons of our old self is we believe that the rules that we followed as a child are ones that are good for everyone and that everybody should be following them. So I used to do this to my husband all the time. I would be like, I knew that as a child, one of my rules that kept me safe was if Other people have big emotions. I need to change until they feel better. I need to be different so that the people around me will have better emotions. Anybody else? Raise your hand if anybody else has had that kind of a rule in their life. I'm just curious how many of us had that kind of a rule. Okay, so there's quite a few of us. So the problem was now as an adult, what I would do after I got married is I would get frustrated with my husband when he wouldn't try to change to when I had emotions. Or if other people, I would get frustrated when he didn't follow the same rule. So that's what I'm talking by toxic empathy and toxic rules. Does that make more sense? So spiraling thoughts and self-talk. So this ruminating, the worst case scenario, catastrophizing, all of those things are tools of our old self. Distractions. Anybody have this one? Food, noise, busyness, phones, anything is it that those kinds of distractions are all tools of our old self. They lock us into who we've been in the past because the reality is old self doesn't care about your progress or your growth. Old self just wants to keep you safe and familiar. So old self will prioritize familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. Okay? So I want to say that one more time. Old self prioritizes familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. Prioritizes familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. Okay. So that's the weapon, the biggest desire of the old self is to keep things the same, even if they hurt. So do you ever see yourself going through the same thing over and over again? Because what happens is, okay, don't go out of order, Ann. All right, let's look at the weapons of the new self. So the new self fights differently. It fights to become something. It's more excited, it's wide-eyed, it's altruistic. It is the new self is a hope. The new self is a belief. The new self is faith. The new self is trust. The new self is openness. And none of those things, faith, openness, trust, belief, none of those things feel safe to the old self. So those are weapons of the new self. So to become the new self needs things like accountability, people who see your future, not just your past, keeping promises to yourself. Like this is one of the things that we've been doing in breakthrough coaching recently that we've been trying is I call it a power hour. So during the week, we have this power hour where everybody can get on Zoom. And at the beginning of the hour, you say, this is the thing I need to get done. Everybody puts it in the chat. And then we leave our videos on, but we turn our microphones off and we go get our work done for the next 50 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes of that power hour, we come back and we say, all right, look at this is what I got done. We have accountability and people that are there working too. We're all working on different stuff. Like this time I was making phone calls because that was something I keep avoiding. And avoidance is a tool of the old self. And so I'm using these tools of accountability and people who believe in me and keeping a promise to myself. And during that power hour, oh my gosh, I wanted to run away from those phone calls so bad because they were not phone calls that I wanted to make. I did not, they needed to be made, but I did not want to make them. And so I kept catching myself wanting to run away from them. But I'm like, nope, I'm going to keep to this promise that I made for myself. I'm going to keep that promise. Using imagination on purpose. Your brain uses you use the same portions of your brain when you imagine something happening. as when it actually happens. Consider that for a moment. We actually, all of the experiences that we have in life are happening in this brain. They are the neurotransmitters that fire in our brain. That is our experience. It's our interpretation of what's going on out there that makes the experience. So it stands to reason that if I imagine something happening, it's firing the same neurotransmitters as if it's actually happening in real life. So that means if I catastrophize, I'm experiencing the catastrophes. Oh my gosh. If I sit and belittle myself, I'm experiencing that as if somebody else was belittling me. If I imagine things going wrong, I'm experiencing that as if they were going wrong. And my new self uses that. I mean, my old self uses that every day. Every time you catastrophize, every time you imagine things going wrong, every time you are letting yourself ruminate, we have to think about worst case scenarios sometimes and plan for them. What I'm talking about is the rumination of them, that going over and over and over the same problems, that is causing our nervous system harm. It's causing, it's weakening our new self. So the old self is using that imagination against us, but we can tip it in our favor if we will intentionally imagine ourselves as our new self and get no, I don't know if I'm going to go there. Okay. There are levels to what we're talking about here, and there's a deep level. I'll go there for just a second. I have to access some pretty powerful emotions to help empower my new self. And one of them is I need to imagine myself as my new self and be disgusted with my old self. If I can imagine my new self to the point that I don't want my old self anymore, that helps the new self win. But the way I do that is I have to imagine myself intentionally as my new self. This is one of the purpose of vision boards and declarations, is to be able to imagine and feel myself as my new me. So that's what imagining on purpose is. I need some structure, follow through, willingness to be uncomfortable. You guys, who's willing to be uncomfortable? Raise your hand for me if you're willing to be uncomfortable. Okay, so you tell me you're willing to be uncomfortable, but what happens as soon as you have something you need to get done that you don't want to do? What happens? Do you just go do it? You run away, right? We run to distractions, food, noise, busyness. The internet is actually programmed to help you run away. Yeah, creative avoidance. What a great word. The internet is actually set up, the short form video, and oh my gosh, we could talk about what the short form video is doing to your head, but the internet is, the algorithms are actually set up to help empower your old self, not your new self. Sit in that for a second. The internet, the algorithms, the social media, everything on your computer, it is wired to empower your old self, not your new self. The default is there. I have to purposefully train myself to become the new self. It is actually a strengthening experience, but it is hard. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. The first time you do it, it's really hard, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. So we need choice over reaction. We need nervous system management. But that willingness to be uncomfortable, we have to be willing to sit in uncomfortable. And it can be as simple as, I this is just my experience. You can take it for what you want. But I had heard when I was younger that when people get older, they have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have to wake up to go to the bathroom. And so then I hit 50 and I noticed that in the middle of the night, my bladder would wake me up. But here was the part that was really annoying is I would get up and I would go to the bathroom and there would be a little trickle. And I'm like, seriously? Bladder, you woke me up for that? I'm like, that's unacceptable. That is not okay. And so what I started doing is when my bladder would wake me up, I would say, no. I can tell that there's not a ton there, and I'm not going to let this be something that you wake me up for. Because there was this weird rule that I was obeying that when I reached 50, that meant that I had to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't times or reasons that people need to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. What I'm saying is this was my experience. And I was like, no, I got up several times and I've noticed that my bladder is waking me up, but it's not because it's full. And that's not okay. And so I started, when it would wake me up, I would sit there in the uncomfortable. And I would sit there and I would notice and I would go, okay, is it really full or is it just distracting me? Is it just wanting me to go into a behavior? And I'm like, okay, it's not really full. I'm going to stay here in the uncomfortable. And the crazy thing about this, and I never planned on teaching this in a webinar or telling this story, but the crazy part was after a couple of weeks, my bladder quit waking me up. It doesn't ever wake me up. It doesn't. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll really need to pee, but it doesn't wake me up in the middle of the night anymore. And I thought, what in the world just happened there? What in the world? And I realized that what was going on is I had gotten very accustomed to avoiding uncomfortable. And so, wherever that place is in your life where you can learn to sit in the uncomfortable, maybe, oh, here's a good one. Maybe your phone dings, and instead of picking it up, you sit in the uncomfortable of not picking up your phone when it dings. Or maybe when you sit down to do something that's hard for you, like make a phone call, your brain is going to come up with 500 things that you should be doing instead of that. And just sitting in the uncomfortable of that. We have been robbed. Your new self has been robbed by a world that wants to help you not ever experience uncomfortable, ever. Because we talk about a world that maybe the robots will do all the work for us in the future and we can just do our creative endeavors. Well, the problem with that is that would be so comfortable that we would be robbed of the experience of the uncomfortable. Uncomfortable always goes with growth because the new self prioritizes uncomfortable, the uncomfortable. Remember, the old self prioritizes familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. The new self is um, prioritizes the growth over the familiar. So which one am I going to choose? Which one am I going to choose? So we, when we look at this on the surface, we would all choose the new self. And if we could have check boxes of what to do, we would choose the new self on a daily basis. So why don't we? Why don't we? What's going on? Well, the problem is when we start taking steps, let's say that my new self wants to go in a new direction. And the new direction is this is the path to new, is this direction. But the problem is, As I am walking in my new direction, I realize that I'm on a ship that is moving in the other direction. Whoops, I moved. All right, here we go. So the ship is moving this way. So no matter how much I walk in this new direction, the ship that I'm on is moving this direction. And so I can't get to where I want to go. So I need to go figure out who's driving the ship. Have you ever felt like that? That it's like, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to have better health. That's what I want to do. I want to have better health. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to go walking, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to eat more vegetables. And then what happens is you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, I missed my alarm. I'm too tired. And so I'm not going to be able to. And so the ship keeps moving this way. Or I open the fridge to get out the vegetables and I just go, no, I would rather not eat the vegetables. Okay. So the ship keeps moving away from my new self, or my goal, what I want to be, even though I take token steps in the new direction. So I need to go figure out who's driving the ship. If I am trying to move this direction, I need the ship to turn around and go in the other direction. I need the ship to start moving the direction I'm going instead of the opposite direction. Does that make sense? So I want to know who's driving the boat. Do you want to know who's driving the boat? Because I felt this, oh my gosh, it's like, yep, I'm going to go accomplish this goal. And then what happens? I don't accomplish the goal. I don't do it. I don't take the action. And the problem is because your identity is driving the boat. Your identity is driving the ship the other direction. So let's look at what is identity. What is identity? Because why is the identity going in a different direction than what I want? Well, the identity is literally what your nervous system predicts you will do under pressure. Now, who, okay, a little bit of a quiz. Which you, the old you or the new you, has the weapon of pressure? Who uses pressure? Old you or new you? Tell me. Do you remember? Old you. Old you uses the weapon of pressure. Okay? All of these things are pressure, resistance, judgments, assumptions. These are kinds of pressure. Have tos, internal pressure. Okay? The old you has the weapon of pressure. So your identity is literally what your nervous system predicts you will do under pressure. And your identity has one very important rule about pressure, and that is don't violate the story of who you are. So let's think about, where was the story written about who you are? Where was it written? Do you remember? Most of the story about who you are was written before you turned 8 years old. So most of the beliefs and the programming and the identity story was written before you were 8 years old. And from that point forward, you've been following the rule of don't violate the story. So your nervous system predicts how you will behave under pressure. So when you start to choose to go in a new direction, your identity says, "Oh, we know what's going to happen under pressure." And if you start moving this direction, pressure happens. You feel the pressure because old you pushes back. It pushes back. And under pressure, you're going to move this direction, that way. Under pressure, you're going to move that way. And your identity wants to obey the story. It doesn't want to rock the boat. It doesn't want to rock the boat. So the old you The old you is, and your identity are saying, don't rock the boat. Don't change what's going, because changing feels, oh, here's the slide I was looking for. Changing feels like death. It feels like exposure, danger, loss of predictability, loss of belonging. So don't rock the boat, because if you do, we will be in trouble. My if I let something happen, if I let something happen, I will experience what feels like death. And your old self doesn't want that. Doesn't want that. One of the reasons your old self wins all the time is because it feels familiar and your identity wants what is familiar. You have an identity baseline. So this is why in life you might have experiences where you pull yourself up and it's like, "Oh my gosh, this feels so good. Things are going so well in my life." And then you notice that you start avoiding or you start sabotaging yourself. And so things go too good and you pull yourself back down, right? Have you ever experienced that where things start going too good in your life? And now that they're going too good, I sabotage myself and pull myself back down. Well, it works the other way too. When things start going too bad, our nervous system, our identity wants us to move back to the baseline. So we have an identity baseline that we live. So the goal, and one of the thing the goal is, can I raise that baseline so that the return to place is at a higher level? Does that make sense? Um, So the identity baseline, so I've experienced this so many times. Things start going good, and so I have to manufacture problems in my life. I attract problems to myself. But what do? I blame them on things outside of me. I don't blame them on me. I say, "Oh, things were so good, and then um my neighbor did this or my family member did this or the government did that," or and I blame it outside of me or the weather or the traffic. Things were going so good in my life, but then I was late for my appointment and or my interview, and since I was late for the interview, they didn't hire me. But I don't look at the fact that the reason I was late was because I was avoiding getting in the car. I was dragging my feet. So our identity baseline pulls us back to whatever we're used to, whatever it is. So if my familiar pain is clear down here, that's where I will keep returning to no matter how hard I push out of it. No matter how hard I push out, it'll pull me back to my baseline. So my identity is where we confuse safety with self. Staying safe is not what we're here for. Because who do you think God wants you to be? Do you think God wants you to be your old self or your new self? Think on that for a minute. Do you think God wants you to be your old self or your new self? Yeah. Yeah. So if God wants you to be your new self, why did he let you get programmed as your old self? Have you ever considered that? Why did God let you get programmed? Because God created this planet. And if God created the planet and he created the environment where I am going to make a rule book for myself without all the information, what would be the reason for me to have this if this is what God wants for me? Yeah. So agency, so we can choose. If we don't have an old self, we can't grow from it. We need to have something to push against. But the problem is, this is another trick that we get in I'll even say it just in religion or in good churchy places, is we think that if something is good, it feels safe and smooth. It feels smooth. But now that you know that is a war going on, now that you know there's a war, and you'll never be able to unsee this. You're going to see it in yourself every day. Now that you know there's a war going on, then let's consider this for a minute. I can't live from a come from that if something is good, it feels smooth. That can't be my come from, or else the old new wins. One of the weapons of the old self is smoothness. Smoothness. I want things to be even keel. You hear people all the time say, I want peace in my life. Well, is it really peace that we're looking for? Is that really it? Because the new self feels unpeaceful at first. We have to practice the new self before it becomes smoother or peaceful. So if God wants me to be my new self, should I prioritize smoothness in my life? Think about that. Okay. I need to prioritize sitting in the uncomfortable of the new. I need to practice the new. So if this is my identity, I need to upgrade my identity. And the way that I upgrade my identity is I need to lower the resistance of the old self. And I need to sit in the uncomfortable of the new self and practice it. So how do I do that? To do that, I have to teach my nervous system how to practice the uncomfortable. I need to be able to get to a place. The difference is not the situation, but the difference is the nervous system state. So, for example, that means, are you going to live the life you were conditioned to live? Or are you going to live the life? Are you going to live your life? Which one are you going to do? Well, your old self wants you to live what you're conditioned. Your new self wants you to practice something different. And every time we practice something, it is uncomfortable. And so when we as good churchy people label the smooth as good, we're mislabeling. The uncomfortable, the unsmooth is also good for different reasons. So what we want to do is we want to be able to train our nervous system to practice the new. But you are in a chronic state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You are. And I know this because I have yet to meet somebody who isn't trapped in their chronic state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We have to learn to get out of that. We have to learn to be able to get into a positive identity state where we can move forward. And so, let's see where my handout is. There we go. Um, so some of the top, so see if any of these resonate with you. These are indicators that you are in a state of chronic sympathetic system. Unresolved emotions. Anybody have some of those? We have a meaning. Oh, can I explain this quickly? The lens that we look at life through, if we frame things as unsafe, like this shouldn't be happening, something is wrong, those kinds of things, Those are going to keep us in sympathetic activation. Chronic boundary violations, people pleasing, approval dependence, suppressed anger, needing to control everything, over identification with responsibility, constant future scanning, sleep deprivation. Another thing that will push us into chronic sympathetic nervous system stimulation is blood sugar instability. If you have a habit of eating bad foods that spike your insulin, that is going to lock your system down. Stimulant overload, too much digital hyperstimulation. There we go. Say it that way. Inability to tolerate stillness, conflict avoidance. Okay, I can go on and on and on. Does anybody have any of those? Raise your hand if even one of those resonated with you, right? So we have all these things that are pushing us into not practicing a new nervous system state. Your old self is very keen on you staying hyper vigilant. Okay? Your old self needs you to stay on alert. If you want to get to a place where life feels more doable, I would describe it this way. If you can get to where you don't need the storm to change, but you can stand in the storm without losing yourself, that's the goal. That's when you have raised your identity baseline, is when you don't need your surroundings to be different for you to feel different. So let me just say that one more time. When you don't need your surroundings to be different for your nervous system to be in a different state, that's when you've raised your identity baseline. That's when you're doing it. And so this is why I'm preparing everything for the Break Free Intensive class next week. I'm super excited about this because here, just listen to this for just a minute here. Break Free Intensive was born out of a need, out of the realization that I needed to be able to help myself to be able to handle my world better, to be able to quit looking at things as a problem and seeing them as an experience. Um, because consider this, if your current approach to living worked, then you'd already be living differently. If managing other people's emotions worked, you'd feel free by now. If insight alone worked, your nervous system would already trust you. The real cost isn't that things aren't changing. The real cost is that you're getting too used to it. You're getting too used to it every day. Every day you delay, old you gets better trained. Familiar patterns don't stay neutral, they strengthen. Okay? So, um, what most people don't lack isn't insight. What they lack is internal authority. People are smart. Most people are smart. They're self-aware, they're motivated, but they're still reactive, drained, and stuck in familiar loops. And so at some point, self-reflection becomes self-delay. At some point, coping becomes the thing that's costing you your life. At some point, wanting to feel safe becomes the reason you never move, right? Yeah, I get too used to my surroundings. I get used to the clutter. So Break Free Intensive was born not from a place of fixing your life, but it's about raising your identity so your life stops ruining you. It's where you stop outsourcing regulation and stop taking everything personally. Because this is what I realized about me is I kept needing the world to cooperate so that I could be okay. We love to point out there, but this is where the term misery loves company comes from. We love to point out there as the problem when that's better, when that changes, when I'm able to retire, when I have a better job, when I get married, when I get divorced, when I get When I arrive somewhere, then my life will be good. And then we wonder why when we arrive there, nothing's better. And that's because we haven't learned to raise our identity. And raising your identity isn't a single checklist that I can give you. It's an experience that you have to have. This is what I've had to do for myself over the last 15 years is peel back the layers that are holding my identity down. And every time I peel a layer, I have found another layer until just recently. And I talked about this on the last webinar. On this last layer, I peeled it up, and underneath, I didn't see another layer for the first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I could get to the place where there's not another layer to go through. It doesn't mean I don't have other things to work on. It just means for the first time, I actually feel what it feels like at my own identity level of, and the freedom of that is indescribable. And we are able to let down our guard of control or people pleasing or managing all other people's pain so that I can quit hurting. All of those things. Break Free Intensive is for people who are done managing systems and ready to change what's underneath. It's for you if you're self-aware, capable, and tired of knowing better without living better. You recognize that your reactions, not other people, are shaping your outcomes. This was life-changing for me because I always thought that it was the people around me or the situations, or if I could graduate from college, if I could have expertise that people saw as valuable, if I could help other people with their problems, then things would be good. But it's not, it's my reactions. Can you stand in the storm? Can you stand in the storm and not need the storm to be different, but you can manage you? That's the real power. When you're willing to stop outsourcing regulation to circumstances, relationships, or mood, when you want to build internal authority instead of waiting to feel safe, if you're ready to experience discomfort without panicking, blaming, or collapsing, you want to stop taking everything personally and start choosing intentionally. If you're willing to examine your identity, not just your habits. Break Free Intensive is for people who want strength, not soothing, ownership, not excuses, and change that holds up under pressure. But Break Free Intensive is not for people who want the world to change so they don't have to. Or if you're looking for validation that your reactions are someone else's fault. A lot of people out there, they want tools to control other people instead of regulate themselves. They believe that feeling safe means everyone else behaving differently. That has become a catchword in our world. It's like people use it at work or in relationships, and they'll say things like, I'm not feeling safe in this conversation. When what they're saying is, you need to change so that I feel better. And I'm not saying that there aren't problems out there and that there aren't people that behave inappropriately. What I'm saying is that's not universal, and that's not even a helpful way to look at it. If I'm using the words I don't feel safe right now to say something out there needs to change, I'm missing the boat. I'm missing the point. It's not for people who are committed to familiar pain and call it honesty, boundaries, or truth. You want motivation without responsibility? This is not for you. If you want relief without growth, if you want change without identity shift, this class is not for venting, blaming, or staying comfortable. This is about being able to break free. It's for people who are ready to stop asking, why does this keep happening to me? And start asking, who do I need to become so this stops running me? This is for people who are done asking why life feels hard and are ready to become the person it no longer overwhelms. That's what this is for. And so if you want, oh, here's my slide finally. If you want the storm to stop, this is not for you. If you want to stand in the storm without losing yourself, this is for you. If comfort is the goal, look elsewhere. If strength is, you belong here. Because the reality is, you guys, our world is not getting smoother. It's not. It's not getting smoother, and people are getting less capable. People are getting more fragile. Have you seen it? I have four 20-something boys that I watch their interactions with people, and the world is crazier. The dating world, oh my gosh, it's so hard. And I watch the people that they go out with, and I see the fragility that has been programmed into our next generations. We need to practice our own strength so that we can have an influence on the people who are feeling fragile. Um, right. Yeah, right, Fran. Um, she says our true identity is eternal, but the problem is it's been layered over and we forgot what it feels like. We haven't practiced that. And that's the thing that nobody teaches us how to do is how do I practice that so that I become somebody who can stand in the middle of the storm. One of the things it says in those ancient records called scriptures um, is that we are supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. And a big part of that is being able to be in the storm without reaching out and going, I need the storm to be in me. Yeah, I'm going to put the storm in me. No, I can surf whatever comes along in my life when I can uncover and embolden and give weapons to my new self. When I can give weapons to my new self, that's when I am becoming the new me. I need to be able to practice the nervous system states that help me be the new me. I need the new me to become more familiar. That's the problem, is the old you is so familiar that we can't let go of it. The new me needs practice. The new me needs practice. And so that's what I want for you. I want for you to be able to raise your identity baseline. I want that for you only because I've experienced myself. I used to be this person that everything would pull me back down. We all have our individual strengths. We all have our individual gifts and kryptonites that come with those gifts. And so for me, one of my gifts and kryptonites is that being able to change and adapt to a new situation is super hard on my nervous system. In the Clifton Strengths world, it's called adaptability. Adaptability is like my lowest ability on the Clifton Strengths Finders test. And so I had to understand how my nervous system responded to adaptability. Because right now, like tomorrow, I'm going to move my husband and I into a different house. And then next week, I'm going to fly back to Utah and I'm going to go teach the Break Free Intensive class. I have to be able to change, but adaptability is not a strength of mine. But it doesn't mean that it has to trap me if I understand how to help my nervous system be able to manage the changes that happen. So that's the goal. That's the goal. So that's why I created the Break Free Intensive class, was because in the 2 days that you're there, I'm going to show you, I have a list here. This is what you'll come away from the Break Free Intensive. You'll be able to take things less personal so that you can not see everything as meaning something about you. I'm going to teach you how to brainwash yourself, how to wash your brain, how to wash your brain so that you can get out of, well, I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to teach you how to detox from your verbal parasites. You have verbal parasites that are running, but they're individual to you. You have to be able to see your individual verbal parasites that are keeping you in your old self state. I'm going to teach you how to apply micro rebellion to the old self. The new self needs a weapon, a detox weapon. It needs to be able to rebel in the proper ways. Because we all have an inkling for rebellion inside of us, but we don't know how to apply it well. I'm going to teach you how to map your own triggers. You're going to learn how to map your own triggers and what they're teaching you about you. Because if my old self responds to a trigger and I can map that backwards to what is being triggered, I now can move that out of me. And now my new self has more traction because our old self is constantly pushing back. And I need to be able to map backwards what my triggers are and what they mean about me. So if something that somebody does bug you, have you ever had somebody that just bugs you for some reason? Maybe it's because they cut in line at the store, or maybe they cut you off in traffic, or maybe what they do is they're in a class with you and they keep asking too many questions. I can show you what you're afraid of in you. What bugs you in other people can be traced back to what you're afraid of in you. Because fear is a big enemy to the new self. Fear is a big weapon of the old self. So if I can unravel those fears, so the things that bug you in other people, I'll show you how to map that back to, in fact, I've got a handout here that I'm preparing that you'll get in class, and it'll help you map back to what you're afraid of in you. And then I'm going to teach you how to move authority from outside of you back to inside of you. Because that's one of the things, let's see, I think, oh, nope. Oh, maybe I don't have it. I had one other slide that I was going to show you about authority because we've got external authorities, moral authorities, all these social authorities that have started to override our internal authority. So I'm going to teach you how to put authority back in the center of you. So I would love for everyone to be there. Who's gonna be there? Some of you have already registered because it's already next week. It's a week from today. Can you believe it? So February 6th and 7th, 2026 in the Salt Lake area. And it's going to be south of Salt Lake, in the South Jordan area. And um, we are going to, on the first day, you're going to learn about how to apply these things that I just told you, all these things that were on this list. On the second day, people will be on both days, but on the second day, we're going to shift our focus to having people up on stage. And I'm going to help you, I'm going to help the people on stage walk through these trigger maps, walk through what's holding them back, and be able to also walk through how to manually get your nervous system out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic. And I'm going to show you those pieces on stage so you get to watch people go through it. So the people up on stage are going to learn, but also you're going to learn from watching them. Or maybe you're somebody that will come up on stage. Um, and so that is what we're going to do at this class. Next Friday, you're going to join me at 10 a.m. in the morning, and we're going to be there until 6 p.m. And we're going to install all of this new upgraded software. On the next day, you're going to join me on Saturday at 9 a.m. And we're going to work clear through till 6 p.m. We'll have a lunch break. Don't worry, we will have a lunch break. But I would suggest that you come ready with notes. You're going to be able to take notes. You're going to be able to take screenshots. I'll have screenshots. I'll have handouts for you because I want you to walk away with the ability to apply rebellion the way it's supposed to be applied. Upgrade your detox your verbal parasites. Be able to upgrade and return your authority to the center of you. Okay. And so that is what we're going to be doing. So because you're here today, the regular price that you see when we used to do this class before COVID was $749. Because you're here today, then you can have a ticket for $297 if you go to this right here, break free intent or 3ke.to/BFI. And Adam will put the link in the chat for us as well. He'll put the link in the chat. Um, and so if you want to come, I'm also going to gift you, I have a promo code for you. Let's see if I can put that right here. So utilize the promo code unstuck. That is going to give you a discount because you were here today. Now, it's last minute. It's not for everybody. There's a lot of people who won't choose in. And that's okay because the fewer people that are there, it's going to give us more individualized attention and it's going to be great. So I'm okay if it's not for you. But just remember that if you are somebody who wants to be able to be the eye of the storm, if you're somebody who wants to, um, if you want to stand in the storm and not have the storm define you and not lose yourself, then this is for you. If comfort is the goal, look elsewhere. If strength is, you belong here. So go to the link, and on the link, you will open it and it'll ask for your name and email address. On the next page is where you'll see the coupon code, where you can insert the coupon code unstuck. So put the unstuck in there, and it will give you $100 off. And so that'll bring your registration down to $197. Because you're here today, this is one thing that I'm going to do. Because you're here today, the first 10 people who register, okay, the first 10 people, and this applies even on the recording. So if you're watching the recording, because somebody emailed me and said, hey, how come the people on the recording never get to have a special offer? I'm like, okay, we'll make a special offer for the people on the recording. So the first 10 people get to bring a guest for free. So what you would do is you'll go in, you will register yourself, and then the office will send you an email, and that will give you the ability to bring a guest for free. Okay. If those first 10 slots are taken, I'm still going to open 5 more slots for the people watching the recording. All right. So if you're watching the recording, you're like, oh, I didn't get one of those 10 slots. That's okay. But the first 5 people who respond from the recording, because you're going to be watching that this weekend, because I'm sending the recording out, right? Or Adam is, right, when we get done with this webinar. Okay. So if you are watching the recording, go ahead and respond. Go to the link 3ke.to/BFI, and you get the $100 scholarship. So you still put the code unstuck, and then the office is going to send you an email and will let you give the information of your guest that you're going to bring with you. Okay, because you probably know somebody that would benefit from this information, but if you try to tell it to them, they might take it personally, right? So, and Jeanette's in, woohoo, so glad. I would love to see all of you there. In fact, I want to give you a hug in person. I care about you because you guys, I think about you all the time by name. Well, I think tonight in my personal check-in with my higher power, I'm going to think back at the names that I saw on this webinar today. I'm going to think back about you. Um, I'm going to think about you by name because I have these names. I have this list. Does that make sense? So I'm going to think about Adrian and Anjanette and Barb and Becky and Christine and Jeannie and Jen and Joanne and Tim and Kathy and Lacey and Landon and Laura and Renee and Rich and all of you. And I'm going to be thinking about you because I know what it feels like to have the storm define me. And I also know what it feels like to be able to stand in the storm and not forget who I am. We're all here on a planet where we've had to experience forgetting who we are. So if you have any questions about this, okay, if you have any questions about Break Free Intensive or about this offer, please ask them in here in the chat. And Adam's going to help answer them, and I'll help answer them. Becky said, is it in the email with the waiver? Is what? Let's see what you're asking. So go ahead and ask your questions in here, so I will help answer them. But this is your last chance to sign up. If you go to our website, 3keyelements.com, you'll see the link right there with the information about the class. You'll see it right there. But on there, you won't see the promo code. You won't see the option to get this promo code. So take a screenshot of this so you can use the code UNSTUCK. It's going to be held in South Jordan, and in the email, we'll have the address of the venue. Yeah, cool. I love it. So you guys, you choose into you. Come, let me help you. The reason I'm trying to make the tuition of this a no-brainer for you. I want it to be a no-brainer because what I hope that you coming and being able to not take things so personal, that right there is worth $100 to you. Because if you can take that into the rest of the days of your life and you empower future you empower new you get the weapons in the hands of new you that they need, that is not something somebody can take from you. So it's worth it. You are worth it. I know what it feels like to feel buried by the storm. And so when I think about you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really hope that Shane can feel that freedom that I felt before. I really hope that Tim is going to be able to relax and let go and be able to feel peace in the middle of his storm. I really hope that when Shauna leaves the event, she's going to, I really think about all of these things, you guys. You matter to me. You matter to me. So if you take nothing else from this, know that old self feels safe. New you feels risky. It's a risk you have to take. You are here to take a risk about being you. And I want to join you with that. I want to be there on your journey. All right. So everybody, thank you for being here today. I will do another webinar next month, but the most important thing is I'm going to be there for Break Free Intensive next weekend. I'm so excited to see all of you guys there and give you a hug. You have to give me a hug, unless you don't like hugs, and that's fine too. All right. I love this. Yes, if you want to share this with a friend, you'll get an email with the replay by this afternoon. I love it. Okay, and then the last thing I'll ask you to do, please, is put your gold nugget. What did you learn from the webinar today? Put that in the chat for me so that I can. Adam, can you help Barbara? Barbara's getting stuck on the registration part. I love it. Jeannie has a watch party set up for tomorrow. Love it. Okay, excellent. So put your gold nugget in the chat. I will see you next week. And if you have any questions in the chat, you can ask everyone, or you can just ask the host too. You can just ask me. All right, you guys are wonderful. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to see the new you.